Have you heard about this personal and professional podcast?
Coaching in Session
with your host, Michael Rearden.
The other day, I was thinking about mindfulness and being more mindful. And it led me to think about something that is always in my mind. The future is always going to be right around the corner. And sometimes we want that future to be in our today. Basically, what that means is we might be looking forward to something tomorrow. Maybe a birthday, maybe a trip, you have a vacation planned, maybe a special event, a marriage per se, right? Something going on. And you're like, I'm excited for that day so I can pay attention. But the thing about paying attention is that you can do it right now. So it's okay to have dreams of the future and to think about good things that are going to happen. It's definitely the human condition. We want good things to happen into our life. We want to be looking at the optimistic things coming our way. We don't want to look at Sunday, for example. We have work on Monday. We're like, oh man, Sunday, I have to work on Monday. This is not really a good deal. Most people are going to say, I don't like this aspect of looking into the future. But on Friday, when they're looking at the weekend, they love it. So we can look at certain things and we can say, you know what? I'm going to be optimistic for that. But what are some things that you might not be optimistic for? You might think that is going to be a good thing. Well, let's look back at our childhood. If you are anyone, you probably experienced this. I know I did. I said, naps are for babies. Like, I don't want to take a nap. And now naps are like probably my favorite thing to do. I know people go to the club. People go out and they go dancing. People go on vacations. And heck, I just want to take a nap. When I go on vacation with my family, that's prime real estate for naps. They're on the beach, you're having fun. And I go out there a little bit with them. But heck, I'm napping most of the time. It's like I'm recharging. Yeah, at one point I said naps are for babies. I'm not going to take any naps when I'm a grown up. And sure enough, I'm a grown up and I love taking naps. Think about when you were in school and all of a sudden you're like, I can't wait till school is done. Now you're an adult and you have all of these real world problems. You got to pay the bills. You got to keep the pantry full, the fridge full. I mean, you might say at some point, it would be simpler just to be a kid again. To ride my bike around the neighborhood, to watch TV, to play video games, to do all the things I did when I was a kid. Maybe the good and the bad. But the reality is we are going to grow up. We are going to separate from a pattern of thinking, and one day it's not going to be that pattern of thinking anymore. One of the things that we have to be paying attention to, especially for parents, if you have a little child, a little one with you. I understand the first couple months are, my goodness, like it will test you. Lack of sleep, you have, bickering maybe. There's so much going on. The stress is high, the anxiety is high, the sleep deprivation is paramount. And you're just trying to figure out, how am I going to make it the next day? Well, those days are definitely the days when you probably pay the most attention. I think back when, my kid, or my first one, was around the 3-month mark and he started to get colic. And I'm like, this is so annoying. I can't wait until colic is over. And then even before that, before he can hold his head up, like you have to hold their neck so they're not like slopping over and things like that. I was like, I can't wait until he can hold his head up. And then he was crawling around or not moving at all. I can't wait till he starts crawling, and I can't wait till he starts walking, and I can't wait till he starts running. And I have to slow down because I understand I'm getting back to that same mindset I had, or a person will have, as if Sunday they're waiting for tomorrow for something better. Friday they're waiting for Saturday for the weekend. Maybe school, they're saying, I want to leave school so I don't have to read any more books or do any more studying. or do any more tests. And I understand that school can be a cause of stress and anxiety. And is it necessary? Well, learning is great. You don't have to necessarily go to school to get the learning. It's always good to challenge yourself. But in the sense of we're just trying to move on as quickly to the next thing. And before you know, you're going to be moving on to the grave. So now I have to slow down. I have to say, you know what? I don't mind holding my baby's head. I don't mind dealing with them when they have an upset belly or when they're sick. I don't mind that I have to carry them everywhere. I don't mind that I have to feed them and make sure that they're warm and to do all these things, because I'm sure my mom doesn't worry about if I'm fed or if I'm warm anymore. I'm sure she still has that inkling, that mother instinct in nature within her, but she's not calling me saying, "Hey, Mike, did you eat? Hey, like, are you doing well? Like, are you sleeping good?" It's a check-in, saying, "Hey, something's wrong with your dog. Something's going on." That's the reality, right? Eventually, we stop worrying about the ones that we once took care of. And then the ones that took care of us, we should in turn reciprocate that and take care of them. But yet, it's going to get in the way with our life. So, you know what we'll say? You know what? I don't want to deal with this. I'm going to put you in a nice nursing home the same way I put my kids in a school so the kids can go get an education, because I can't be burdened by educating my children. I'm going to put my parents in a nursing home because I can't be burdened by my parents slowing me down. Because if you think about it, there is no difference in walking slower with a child and walking slower with an adult. And an adult, I mean like an elderly person. So that means at some point, you're going to go very slow, you're going to speed up, you're going to go fast, and you're going to slow down again. And you have to ask yourself, when you slow down, when you have to keep pace with that child, take smaller micro steps that you would probably never ever take by yourself. And you have to appreciate those. The same thing is true with your parents, your elderly, your grandparents, etc. Those people, they're going to be taking the slow steps too. Patience is there, right? Appreciation is there. And you know what's going to also be there if you don't do it? Regret. If you're absent when that child is growing up, if you're passing off the responsibilities of raising that child, delegating it to someone else, a babysitter, a grandparent, yes, of course, they will definitely care and love that child, hopefully. But the reality is, can someone love your child more than you? And I'm talking about as a parent. I was just talking to my wife about this. I was like, I don't know if anyone could. I think grandparents get very close to loving that child as much as the mom or the dad would. But I mean, when it's like when is your responsibility, your flesh and blood, things are different. And I thought, even as a teacher, when things happened, I was like, I feel for these kids like they're my own. But man, when you have your own, it's like a whole different ball game. It's like you don't know until you know. So now we know that we should be slowing down. We should be taking the steps and appreciating the moment. We should be looking at the future, not so much to be in a rush to it, but understand that this is going to be a memory at some point. And then let's slow down again and appreciate it. It's called mindfulness. You don't have to meditate to be mindful. You just have to pay attention. Now we get into the whole aspect to today, where we're trying to get into the aspect of time because we have very little time. I understand people might say, "Oh, we have 80 years, 90 years, 100 years in the whole scheme of things." Yes, 100 years is a long time, but you're not guaranteed 100 years. I know people who are dying at 30. I'm sure they didn't have plans to die at 30. I'm sure they didn't write in their journal, "Okay, tomorrow I'm going to die," right? Maybe sometimes, they know, but most people, they have this optimistic view of life. Now, of course, there's going to be ailments, cancer, debilitating diseases that can threaten your life. And you are either in the fight of your life, meaning you're trying to beat this disease, this illness, trying to survive, or is a ticking time bomb, waiting until the day where you surmise? Well, the future can wait. The future can wait. That means death can also wait. We're not going to treat death as something as, oh my goodness, I'm going to ignore it. Oh my goodness, I'm going to just focus on living life. I'm going to focus on living in the moments, There's joys to being present. There's joys to raising your children. There's joys to understanding your parents, like when you are older, maybe in your mid 30s or 40s, and now you have to go in and take care of your parents. And I'm not saying that you need to go, feed them and things like that. Maybe you do, but you take care of them just as they took care of you. And it's like one hand washes the other. It's not like you have one hand and you're just kind of, mixing up the soap. Like you're not going to effectively clean that hand. So you have two hands and each hand works together to clean the other. If you wanted to scratch your back, of course, you can get a back scratcher. You could pay someone, right? But then again, if you're paying someone, there's someone else doing it for you. So there's that outside factor that we can appreciate the people around us. The joy aspect of people has never been more prevalent than today. And then we have people, they're living in a time where they think they have tomorrow. They can do it later. Many parents or many people, they're not parents yet, but many parents, they're thinking about maybe having children. But then again, they don't want to have relationships. They don't want to start families. They don't want to have, sexual intercourse, relations with someone. So you're not going to have a baby. Of course, I understand you can do in vitro and stuff like that, but we're not going to get into all that. But the aspect is many people are choosing not to love, not to start a relationship or a family and settle down. Many people are still living in this aspect of, I'm going to move very fast by myself. And I can't tell you how many people have this mindset. Everyone says, I'm going to do it by myself. I'm going to do it alone. And I'm over here trying to find a team. I'm over here trying to find people who can help me. I'm over here trying to find people who want to see me win. And everyone else is over here saying, I'm going to do it by myself. I'm going to build myself up. I'm going to do everything. I'm a one-man army. I'm a independent boss babe woman. And, I do it all by myself. And I'm not saying that you can't do it by yourself. I'm saying, where's the joy in doing it by yourself? Because let's say you had a birthday party and you were turning a special age, maybe like 40, right? 40 might be a good special age, maybe 50. You did all this work to make a cake and to make all these hors d'oeuvres, and you invited some people, right? Maybe some close friends and family. But the time of the party, no one showed up. What's the difference? Well, if we just decided not to invite people, we wouldn't have this feeling of not being appreciated. We would still be alone. And that's going to be in both scenarios, because you're alone if you didn't invite them, and you're alone even when you invited them and no one came. It's just that if you invite people, no one shows up to save you or to be there to celebrate you. It is going to hit home differently. What happens a lot when we're growing up is that we are missing so many different things from our parents, from our education. And then at some point later in life, we try to supplement all the things that we didn't have. So that means we're going to love our kids more when we do have them. We're going to send them to the best schools, and we're going to protect them the ways that we haven't been protected. But the only thing that does is it does a disservice to that child growing up. If you do everything for your parents, let's fast forward now into older age, because we can keep jumping back from a young age to middle age to an elderly age. If you do everything for the elderly, they're going to decline so much quicker. That means they're going to start to get osteoporosis. They're going to start to get some type of dementia. They can have illnesses like cancer, etc. All of these are going to stem from them not having a purpose, number one. And then number two, being less active than they have been before. I've talked about this statistic on the podcast already, and I'm going to say it again because this is a very interesting statistic. They say that grandparents who live within, I believe, 10 miles of their grandchildren, right, have almost, I think it's close to like almost 100% reduction in illnesses coming their way. Why is this? Why is this happening? Well, the reason this is happening is because they retained a purpose. What tends to happen in life is this. We get our job, right? Because we're told to get our job, our 9 to 5, to work hard, play hard, and then buy a house, etc., start a family. Like this is the dream that we're told to live. But then at some point, we are living this dream and we get so caught up. And then we think about the days when we will have more flexibility, more freedom. So we think about 65. We think about the day we retire. And during those times, we are just moving, cooking, doing everything we have to do. We show up regardless of the stress, regardless of the anxiety. We are still there. However, now we get into the $1,000,000 question. Well, what do we do when we get there? Well, we need to redefine our purpose, and we need to start to live in that moment, because we can't look back at our youth and say, man, I remember when I was young, when I was a kid, when I was with my parents, and when I was growing up and when I was working. We can't get into that habit of going all the way back into the past or living so far into the future. We need to look at the present. So there is a power that is a joy, essentially. There's a joy in living in the moment and paying attention to it. There's a joy in raising children. There's a joy in, experiencing life in your early adulthood age of 20, 21, etc. And then later on in life, when you become a bit more seasoned, what it feels like. Maybe you move a little bit slower. Maybe you can't jump as high. You can't run as fast, right? There's things that are almost limits. So we allow our body to dictate what we can and what we cannot do, and our mind follows. And so at that point, at that inception, we lose our youth. We lose the joy of truly living life, because at some point in our subconscious mind, it's going to say, I used to be this and now I'm this. So how can I appreciate what I have when it's worse than what I had? And this is something that can be all aspects of life, your lifestyle. You might be living in a big house right now. Well, guess what? Maybe something happens, you become financially insecure, and then something happens and now you're on the street. Yeah, you can think about that big house, and also you're also going to be having a hard time thinking about how you're going to crawl back from rock bottom, because you have gone so far. And if you keep pushing someone, if you keep pushing someone back, eventually they're going to quit. They're going to stop. They're going to break. Now, with different mindsets and different people, it's going to be different levels of that. Some people, it's going to take a lot longer to break them. Some people, they're going to break at the inception of something bad. It doesn't necessarily matter which one, right? The end result is that your mindset is going to shatter. And you have to be the person to pick up the pieces. Because even if I picked up all the pieces for you and I put them together and say, here, you're going to look at it and you're going to say, it's imperfect, it's broken, right? People don't want broken things. If I broke a plate and I glued it together and it still worked as a plate, people wouldn't buy it. And that's life. People won't just accept a life that is broken. People want a pristine set of armor. They want a pristine mindset. They want a pristine past and a pristine future. Yet our life is built on imperfections. If we just take a step back and we appreciate the moment, if you're a parent, appreciate your children growing up, appreciate homeschooling them, appreciate them breaking stuff, appreciate the dirty house. Our house is a mess right now. I understand why. It's because I have a 2-year-old. I have a newborn. And I understand that things are not going to be perfect. I understand my day is not going to necessarily be so linear as it used to be when I was single. I was offered a job to go travel the world, and I can't. Do I regret it? No. I would rather be here to raise my children because I understand something, that I will only be able to raise them once. I'll always be able to love them when they're adults and to take care of them. But one of the things I ask parents who have already been there, done it, they're past retirement age, I say, tell me the secret. Tell me the secret about being a parent. And almost, I would say 80% or more, they say to be there, be present, to sit down, to listen to them, to not just be so absent, to be so busy where you can't stop and pay attention. So the joys of raising children can lead to a more joyous life. And then it can also lead to the appreciation that since you're taking care of them, you can be reminded that your parents took care of you, and then you can reciprocate that for your parents later on. And it's something that I think about quite often. And there's not enough people who think about that, because people think that once I fly away, once I leave the nest, it's game over. I'm on my own. The fight's by myself. And in a sense, I understand that the fight is going to be yours, right? If you want change to happen into your life, you have to be that person that derives that change. It's not someone that says, hey, I'm going to change you for you. No, you can't change someone. You can be there to support their change, but they have to want the change. So they have to take care of themselves, and you have to take care of yourselves. So you have two healthy people coming together that have taken care of themselves. And if in the sense or in the event that they had to take care of one another, they could. And they're not going to sacrifice anything from themselves because they are coming from a sense of being complete, from being whole, from being full. And many people are living in a half-empty mindset, are living in a half-empty sense of meaning and joy of life. People have a misconception of what joy is, or what happiness is, or what love is. And all of those things are right in the moment. The good and the bad, the ugly and the pretty. We have to get over this aspect that tomorrow is promised, that we will pay attention when it's convenient. Well, sometimes times are not going to be convenient. There's many times in my life when things have not been convenient. It's an uphill battle sometimes. It's a losing battle sometimes, but you do not give up. So that's my message. Do not give up. To pay attention to the little things around you. Maybe you don't have any children for yourself, so you have maybe nieces. Maybe you just see kids being kids on the street. You don't have to be a Karen or Ken and yell at them and say, oh, why are you doing this, etc. Allow them to live, just as you were allowed to live. We have become so self-centered that we cannot even see what life truly means anymore. It means community. It means togetherness. It means understanding that this life will one day be over. Yet many people, they live on the opposite spectrum. So, like I said, there's a joy to being in the moment. There's a joy to being present, to watching your kids grow, to watching your parents grow older, even though it could be heartbreaking. We appreciate what life brings us. And if you can't appreciate what life brings us or what will bring you, you're going to have a hard time later in life appreciating what your life is. And you're going to find that regret and the lack of fulfillment is going to be a burden. So do not allow that burden to be present in your final days or even in your present days. Think about what needs to happen today. And of course, if you need help with this focus, with this alignment, to pay attention to the little things that might seem like inconveniences today, I encourage you to reach out to us, revenconcepts.com, get yourself a consultation, and then begin to work on the areas where you feel as if you need some alignment in. And remember that alignment is not saying that you're broken or that you're imperfect. It just means that you would like to be more straight in how you're living your life. There is no shame in wanting to change how things are going right now. Because if things are going good, great, make them better. If things are not going good, well, let's begin to make some changes. So I ask you, would you be adverse into making the future wait a little bit longer? Because there's a joy to living in the moment, and the future can wait when we're living in that present moment. Make the future wait. It's good to be there. It's not running away from you. It's running toward you.